What is up everyone, welcome back to Mainly Movies, the channel where we talk about, well, mainly movies. So in today's video we're going to be talking about a movie that premiered last year and only just released on Blu-ray this year in Australia, and that's the movie Possessor, directed by Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son. This story follows a woman who possesses the body of another person to kill a certain target. As she possesses the body of a man, her emotion and thoughts begin to change as she is torn between which life she should pick.
Pull me out.
So first of all, I was really excited about this film. Not only am I a big David Cronenberg fan, and I was looking forward to seeing his son take on the role of being a director, and I believe this is his debut film. Not only was I excited about that, but the poster for this film really intrigued me and really got me going. Although I was expecting a little bit more body horror than what I actually got, but I mean there are still a lot of body horror aspects in this film, and there's a lot of David Cronenberg aspects of this film, as well as it kind of feels like other directors take on things as well. It feels like there's a lot of inspiration. But first of all, I'm going to go into the positives with this film. I really like the aesthetic of the film. The cinematography, the style of the film is really good. The directing is really good, and I don't mind the writing. The writing is good. It does get a little bit messy in certain parts, but overall I thought the writing was really good. But I think the breakout is the performances in this movie are pretty good. But the cinematography, the way this movie looks, is what really intrigued me. The yellow and red lighting that they use, this nauseating feeling that you get watching the film, I really enjoyed that. The story in parts I really liked. It intrigued me a bit, but I'll get into that in a minute, into my negatives. But yeah, this movie is kind of a lot of the things that I expected it would be, plus more. I feel like I got a lot out of it. I didn't realize it was going to be as violent and as gory as it was, and I mean, I love gory body horror films, so that was right up my alley. This movie is quite extreme violence, hence the R rating, but so I mean, there is a warning given, but this movie still has some really awesome practical effects. That's another thing I want to give this movie props for, is using practical effects. The blood and some of the makeup and creative design that they used for this movie was really good, and obviously he's taken that from his father, and he's a master at it. I do say he is the next David Cronenberg. Now into my negatives. I don't really have too many, but there was a few things in this movie that bugged me. First of all, the first and second act of this film, besides the beautiful style of the film, the nauseating feeling that you get, and the awesome practical effects, the story in the first two acts feel like something that I've seen many times before. It wasn't really original, and in a way, as I was watching it, it felt like something that Leigh would film. It did feel a lot like Upgrade or The Invisible Man, especially Upgrade. It felt like it had that like body switching or like body horror aspect like Upgrade had, which I mean wasn't so bad, because I mean they still are two very different things, but it just had that feeling to it, and it didn't feel as original as the third act. The third act of the film, I will say, I had no idea where it was going to go, and I thought the third act was the strongest part. It surprised me completely. The movie just took a turn and it got really weird. The style and the visuals and just how crazy the movie got just was bumped up to 10. Like it was really good, the third act, and that's what I really enjoyed about the third act, was just not knowing where this could go. But there was actually one moment in the second act, well yeah, roughly around the second act, where I could imagine something that was about to happen, and it actually did happen, because the first and second acts weren't original at all. Like I'd seen things like that plenty of times. It wasn't overly that annoying, but it did kind of bug me. I was really hoping that the third act would surprise me, and it did, and so I'm glad it did that. But another thing that kind of annoyed me about the film was the main character in this film. She has a pretty steady and comfortable motive throughout the whole film. Her motivation is perfectly easy to understand. But when it gets to the end, I feel like with the way the movie turns, because it goes through all these twists and turns, and it gets very convoluted towards the end. Not in a bad way, it gets convoluted in a way where it cleans itself up in the end. But the one thing it doesn't clean up is the main character's motivation. The main character's motivation, and this is the one thing that really did kind of annoy me about the film, was her motivation just kind of went out the window, and you've kind of, by the end of the movie, you feel like you didn't really watch this character grow or anything. You just, and without spoiling the ending, just, you feel like the character didn't grow or have much of an arc as she should have. It's literally not the worst thing in the world. I just think her motivation just got quite messy towards the end of the film. But I also really like the third act, so it is a very very weird situation where I do like the third act, but in the third act there are a few messy ideas that they put into the ending and the third act of the film. Also, if you just heard like sounds in the background, that was probably the water running in the house. But anyway, yes, Possessor, it's a movie that everyone described as a horror movie or something that will leave you scarred for a long time. It didn't really leave me scarred. The first and second act, I was a little underwhelmed by it, but I do think the third act very much holds the movie up, and I do recommend this movie. It's a very, very decent job by Brendan Cronenberg. If this is his debut film, it is a very, very good debut film. And he definitely passed the torch on from his father and continued the legacy, which is something that I always like to see. But overall, yes, I do recommend Possessor, and I'm going to give Possessor a 7 out of 10. So yeah, it is a very decent watch. It's gory. It's got that cool body horror aspect to it. I wouldn't say it's much of a horror though. It's more of like a body horror. It's more of the fear of switching bodies and all that sort of stuff, and they get really creative with some of the design later on in the film. But the third act is definitely the strongest act, and I feel like it is worth watching for the conclusion of the film. But yeah guys, that's my review on Possessor. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned. I'll see you next time. Bye.